Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and I'm Jen. Today I'm going to be doing my first review, which is also going to be my first retro review. That's something I'm really passionate about, is the books that got me into reading and the books that, or books I find now that were written back when I was a kid. I just have so much love for them, and I want to highlight them and maybe get people interested in them again, or maybe tell you about a story that you didn't see when you were a kid and maybe you should read it now. So the first one we're doing today is East by Edith Pattou. A sequel coming out in October of this year, and I am over the moon, and it's really cute. It's called West, because this is going to be the first in this series of retro reviews, and here we go. So East, like I said, is by Edith Pattou. And it was released in 2003, and it's a fairy tale retelling of the Norwegian fairy tale East of the Sun and West of the Moon. And this version of the fairy tale, it's a lot like our Beauty and the Beast in some ways. And the book basics is details, so if you've read it, since these retro reviews, hopefully you'll have read that already, and then we can have a discussion. And if not, I don't want to limit people who will want to talk about it, because that's why I started this channel, is I want to talk about these books that not a lot of people read when I was a kid. Just me and a couple of my best friends read it, and I want to be able to get deeper into the details of stuff. So the book basics for this is set in an indeterminate time, up in the area that would be, kind of like Norway and Iceland, and a poor family, which is Arne and Eugenia are Rose's parents, and they fall in love and get married, and they have 7 children. And this is a really superstitious part of the world. They rely a lot on superstitions to get by, as they did a long time ago in many places in the world, but specifically in this area too. And so Eugenia, she names her children after each of the directions on a compass. So north, south, east, west, northwest, south, after all of those, except for north. Because when she was young, she was told that her north-born child would die in the ice and snow. So the way this setup, there's kind of a lot of setup for this. So the way this is kind of set up is that whichever direction the mother is facing when the child is born, she'll then, that's what their attitude fits into. So it's a little bit like, us following our astrological signs or whatever, but this mom takes it really seriously. And so Rose kind of catches her unprepared. She's her last child. And Rose kind of catches her unprepared, and she's actually born while the mother's facing north. So this starts a big cover up, and her parents name her after a different direction, but they call her Rose. And so everyone else in the family just thinks, oh, she's their last child. They're naming her after the compass Rose, because they're naming them after directions. So that's this family secret that's kind of floating around, and nobody knows except the parents. But it's obviously something that could or would come out later on. So the other setup of this story is the evil troll queen, who we get some part of it in her perspective as well. She saw a little boy playing with a ball when she was visiting from the troll realm. They come and visit the human lands and silently spy on them, I guess. They also take humans as slaves, but she saw this little boy playing with a ball, and she decided that she wanted to bring him back with her. So she kidnaps him, but he is the son of the king of that land. So to kidnap him would make them known. They're not just kidnapping a child that no one would know, which is really sad when you think about it, but it's the truth. But kidnapping him wouldn't go unnoticed. So her father, now that the boy has seen them, they can't just send him back. So the father curses the young boy and turns him into the white bear. And the rules of this of this curse are that for 150 years, he'll be a white bear. And if during that time, if he can get a human girl to live with him for a year, and by day, he's a white bear, and by night, he's a human. But no human can ever see him in his human form, or he like loses this curse or whatever and has to go and live with the troll queen. It's a really complicated setup of a curse, you know, not as nice as like, well, not nice. Ooh, the beast wouldn't feel that way, but not as nice as like, you know, Beauty and the Beast, where it's like, just get this girl to love you. Boom. No, he has to have the girl live with him for a year, not ask any questions, not try to see his face, and be cool with living with him. Like, it's a really sketchy curse, but I'm not breaking it apart because the story is amazing. The way that the white bear and Rose meet is once when she's a little girl, she is drowning and he saves her from drowning. So that's the first time that they meet each other. And then she's always kind of just like different times when she's out and about as a child, she's felt that she's seen him. And she looks at him as kind of like her guardian angel. Well, her mother, her superstitious mother, sees it as an omen that she really will die in the ice and snow someday because she's a Northborn, even though the mother pretends that she's something else. So then we get introduced to Rose as she's like growing up, and Rose, she's so cool. Like she's so amazing. So she's the youngest of these 7 children, and they're a really poor family. So she does her best to help out her family. So she gets a dog. She trains the dog how to like hunt mushrooms to people, and then, you know, to buy more food. Or her mother teaches her how to use a loom and how to weave. And it's just so cool because it makes me think of my grandma a lot, because my grandma taught me how to crochet and sew and knit when I was a kid. And it was one of the few things that could like keep me inside when I was younger. So her mom teaches her to weave, hoping to keep her inside. And Rose becomes really good at this, and she makes things for all of her family, and she does her best to like make things and sell them. And so she's really kind of like entrepreneurial, yeah, whatever, in that way. And she just loves her family so much. And her closest sibling is her older brother, Nettie, who's just one above her, and they're best friends. So there's this curse kind of sort of where they've had bad luck. This culminates in when Rose is about 15 or 16, her older sister, Sarah, gets deathly ill, and she's dying from a fever and sickness, and there's nothing the family can do. And then one day, the white bear shows up at the family during dinner time and says that he will heal Sarah if Rose comes and lives with him. So the family is like, no, you can't do that. Like, no, we're not going to trade one daughter for another. And the father is just like, no, don't come back here. We're not going to think about it. We're not going to talk about it. And the white bear says, I'll give you 3 days and I'll come back and I'll ask you again. This time while they're thinking about it, Rose, you know, she's always had adventure in her heart. And this seems like a chance to save her sister and go live with this bear. And she's like, why would he offer to heal our sister if he was going to take me and eat me? You know, if he wanted to eat us, he could have just done that. Like, we weren't going to be able to stop him. So, and during this time, she finds out about the lie of her family. And this sets in motion her going with the bear. So Rose goes to live with him and, you know, starts to realize that there's more behind this bear than seems to be. Like, he's intelligent and he can talk if he wants to. And the castle she gets taken to is beautiful. It's enchanted. It has a huge library, and it has a beautiful loom room, so she can weave anything that she wants. And she ends up making these really beautiful dresses for herself out of this fabric that looks like moonlight, she says. And so she makes these dresses for herself, even though she has nowhere to wear them. She's just full of the luxuriance of it. And there's plenty to eat, which she hasn't been eating well for years because her family's practically been starving. And there's instruments, she learns how to play that. So just all these like beautiful things she's able to do. But something that starts to happen. And this sounds like really creepy, and there's no like good way to explain it, but one night while she's sleeping, someone comes in the room and sleeps on the other side of the bed from her. And she's freaking out because she's like, oh my gosh, who's in bed with me? What's happening? And nothing happens. The person gets into bed and goes to sleep. And this happens for like a week or so. And she's always afraid. And she tries like leaving a candle lit and it'll always go out. She tries like having Flint with her and trying to start it and look at who the person is, but nothing happens. They don't touch her. They don't talk to her. They just get into bed and go to sleep. So she in her head starts to think that it's the white bear, but she doesn't, but nobody else lives there. So she's like, but the white bear wouldn't be able to fit on my bed. So I don't understand. So one thing she does start to notice is that whenever this person gets into the bed, they're shivering like they're missing their coat. What? And so in her weaving room, she makes this sweater. And so every night she puts it at the end of her bed so that the person can put it on and then they're not shivering anymore. So time goes on and she starts to get really homesick. And meanwhile, back at her family's home, her sister's gotten better. Her father's gotten a new job making maps. And her family is really prosperous and doing well. And the mother, she's like, the white bear did this for us. And her father's like, yeah, but at what price? We lost our daughter so that we could have money. Like, was that really worth it? The white bear actually brings her home to visit her family for a fortnight. So for a 2 weeks time, he brings her to visit. And he says, please don't talk to them or tell them about anything, but you can stay for 2 weeks. I'll be back to get you at that time and we'll go back. And so she gets to visit her family and see how well they're doing. And she realizes she did make a good choice. Like, her sister is okay. Her family's doing well. She makes the mistake of telling her mom about the person laying in bed with her. And I mean, to be fair, if I was a mom and my kid told me that, I would want to know what's going on. So totally fair. But her mom ends up getting a magical flint scraper and tells her that the next time that person comes in, she'll be able to use this flint and she'll be able to look at them and see who it is. No, it could be a monster. It could be something evil. Like, you need to know what's laying beside you. So she goes back to the castle with the white bear. And the very next night, when he's gotten to bed and the lights have all gone out, she takes out the flint and she starts a candle and she walks around the side of the bed and she looks down and she sees this beautiful, handsome man who's just sleeping, and he's wearing the sweater that she'd made. And her candle tips and the wax falls onto his face and onto the shirt. And he wakes up and he's like, what have you done? Like, we only had to make it 2 more months and I would have been free. I would have been free forever. And she's like, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, instead I have to go live with her. And she's like, where? What are you talking about? And he says, east of the sun and west of the moon. Why do you have to go there? Because I was cursed to live as a bear during the day and a man at night for 150 years. And if a maiden would live with me for a year without seeing my face, I would be free. But I couldn't tell her about it, which of course they never can tell anyone about it, because then it wouldn't be a curse. If you just be like, yo, you just gotta live here for a year and then I'll be free, they would be fine. So the evil troll queen comes and takes him, and she whisks him away in her sleigh of bells. Rose takes it upon herself to rescue him. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if he loves her or what's going on, but she just feels obligated to try to save him because he was good to her. He saved her family, and she ruined his life because he has to marry Troll Queen now. Oh yeah, she wants to marry him. That's what it's all about. I don't know why, when she saw him as a little boy, she realized she was going to want to marry him as a man 150 years later, but witch be cray. So Rose, she doesn't go back home. She doesn't tell anyone what happened. She takes what little is left with her, which is the dresses that she made, some food that she had in her pack that she always had in, always ready to go. And that's it. That's all she has. And she goes on a journey to get him back. When she arrives, she makes it across the ice bridge and makes her way into the troll kingdom. Just a couple weeks before the wedding is going to happen between the white bear and the queen. She doesn't know how to stop it, and he doesn't recognize her when they do run into each other because he's being drugged by the queen to be complacent, which is awful. And he doesn't even know that he should want anything else. So, but she doesn't know that he's being drugged, so she just thinks, oh, well, maybe he doesn't want to leave with me. Maybe I did all of this for no reason. So she has a little bit of help from one of the trolls who actually used to live in the palace she was staying in, and he was friends with her. So he helps her come up with a plan, and she is able to disguise herself as a troll and goes to a ball that's there. And she is able to dance with him, and he doesn't show any signs of being unhappy. So she's like, well, maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe I've come all this way, and he doesn't really want to leave with me. So she has a little bit of a breakdown, thinking that all that she's done over this time has been a waste. And so she rides out on a reindeer. They use reindeer to ride. It's super cool. And she runs into the Valley of Death. And this is where they take all the human slaves that they've captured. Because, yeah, there's human slaves there. And when they're of no more use, when they wear out, when the cold is too much for them, they take them out into this valley, strip them naked, and leave them there to freeze to death. And so Rose sees people that she's seen around the palace because she's been undercover there. She sees people who have been sick or weren't their best, and they've just been brought out here to die because the trolls don't care about the people. They bring people in as slaves and let them die. And so Rose starts thinking, well, what if the troll queen grows tired of him? He's not going to live as long as her because she can live forever. He's not as strong as them. He doesn't have any of the powers that they have. What if she grows tired of him and takes him out there to freeze? So she's like, I at least owe him the option to leave, if nothing else. So the next day is the wedding, and she goes off with the plan that her and the troll who's helping her have come up with. The white bear, who we continue to call him the white bear man because the troll queen names him, but we as Rose don't accept the name that she's given him because it's a troll name and it's not who he really is. So anyway, so the white bear is about to marry the queen, and before they get married, he asks her if she'd humor him and do one of the traditions from his village. One of our traditions is that the woman who's going to marry a man has to be able to clean one of his pieces of clothing, and then she's worthy of marrying him because it shows that she'd be able to take care of the house and stuff. And she's like, oh yeah, that'd be easy. So he produces the sweater that he was wearing that had the wax stripped onto it. So the troll queen tries to get the wax out, and she can't do it. She only makes it worse. And then Rose steps forward and she says, I know how to do it. So she walks up and she gets a cauldron heated with hot water, and she puts it into it and she scrubs it and she gets the wax out. So then the troll friend, whose name is Tuki, he lifts up her hand and says, Rose will marry the human prince. Rose will marry the human prince. And the troll queen blows up the palace. She blows it up. And so Rose and the white bear are able to escape. And they escape with the other humans who are still left there, the other human slaves that are still there. And they have to make their way all the way back through to her village. And when they return, though, he doesn't know what his name is because he hadn't used it in 150 years, and he didn't even remember who he was because he was a child. He was only 6 years old. Him and Rose are in love with each other, but he doesn't have anything to offer her because he doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know his name. He doesn't know where he came from. He just knows he was a prince 150 years ago, and that's all he knows. So she follows him back to where his palace was, which it actually is still there. It's just hidden in the mountain. And he goes in, he finds an instrument that used to belong to him, and inside of it is an inscription, and it has his name, and it's Charles. So now he has his name, and Rose arrives there, and he's playing his flute. My name is Charles, and now I have something to offer you. And it's so beautiful because now they're ready to be together. So yeah, there is the long telling of this. You guys know what you're getting in for with my reviews now. I love talking about this story, and it's a story I read the first time when I was 11 or 12. And I've suggested it to pretty much all of my friends over the years, and I've went through like 2 or 3 copies of it. I read it almost every Christmas. I try not to overdo it because it's my favorite novel and I don't ever want to get sick of it, but it's a very well put together story. But I mean, it's very simple. It's not super long. It's a quick read, and for me, like, definitely it's a 5 out of 5 stars. Like, pretty much all the books I review and retro review are going to be 5 out of 5 because I haven't kept them around if they're not a good story. So there's my review of this. If you made it through this entire long rambling story, thank you so much. But this is Jen at the Book Refuge, and I'll see you next time.